Now, as we reported many times on RFL, guns, they're being allowed in more and more places, and there are efforts underway to basically allow them everywhere. Now, a court case in Iowa is seeking to allow people, I want you to listen carefully, to carry concealed weapons into hospitals. You heard me right. And another push in Texas, of course, here, is to allow concealed weapons on all Lone Star State College campuses. We just talked about what happens on fraternity buses. Well, let's give them guns, too. We've seen guns in bars. We've seen them in parks. We've seen them in schools. And there's a new push to allow open carry everywhere in the great old state of Texas, like these patriots here. Yes, rocket scientists who decide to pack heat in broad daylight and even bring machine guns to Chipotle, because we all know you need a machine gun in Chipotle. Okay, here's my question though. Maybe we've been going about this the wrong way. I'll speak for myself, maybe I have. Instead of talking about the rights of the gun owner, what about I'm a patient in an Iowa hospital? Why can't I make an argument that's going to say, time out a second. I have doctors who are going to choose not to perform surgery at this hospital because they're afraid if they have to go out in the waiting room and give bad news to a patient's family that somebody's going to draw on them. Or they're afraid, especially when you have drugs, for example, in a hospital and everything else, that somebody in a bad way will have a gun here and my own life could be imperiled. That my medical care is being compromised as a consequence of this. Why can't I argue as a student all of a sudden that I feel my safety is being infringed on a college campus because the prevalence of drinking, drugs, hormones, oh yes, and idiots on buses and guns are not the best mix here to my education, let alone safety? Why can't the arguments be flipped on its side and that the non-gun owners in places where guns shouldn't be an accepted right, even if the state law permits it, aren't they infringed? As a college president, my applications could come down. As a hospital president, I could see my premiums go up, or I could see certainly doctors not practicing and lose patients as a consequence. Why can't I show foreseeable harm and bring a case here because of the gun law?
I think it's a great point, and it almost makes you look at the whole measles argument, where you have families who've inoculated their children and they want to be able to sue families that chose not to. Here, in theory, you could be a gunshot victim and be in a hospital and have people walking into that room with guns. And on top of that, there's nothing that stops it from being the people who were trying to kill you in the first place. So now you can just have rival factions, gang members, roaming the halls of the hospitals with guns. And on top of that, think about the fact that you have oxygen and all of these flammable substances and dangerous substances.
Do you realize we even have to get into oxygen? This is how much we've gone off the rails. It's all compelling arguments, but I'm a shopper right now, right? Now, sure, stores can put up signs that they don't want to allow it in, right? But look at this. People bringing assault weapons when they're going to Chipotle or packing heat when they're at the A&P or whatever it is.
Well, you could get attacked by a burrito, but the problem is that all of your arguments are fantastic and hopefully would become part of the debate, which would defeat the enactment of the law. But unfortunately, once it's law, you have to wait for something to happen, unfortunately, and then bring your lawsuit because it's the law.
But Rich, these people with the guns, and we're not used to it maybe here in the Northeast, but there is something called the Second Amendment, and they believe that they have a constitutional right to carry guns. And those people in those pictures that we just looked at, if they weren't doing anything illegal that was against the law, they're just citizens.
You're right, Doug, but my only point is in every state, you're not allowed to bring them into the State House. Right. So every state even has their own lines. They, however, are willing to not apply those same lines as a state house to a hospital or a college campus. They're wrapping me up here. But guys, thank you all very much as always. When we come back, we'll have headlines on the other side of the break.